Welcome to the 8th edition of the Adventure Society Report on October 23rd, 2014. I'm Sir Proper, Twitch.tv streamer and quasi-internet celebrity. The question of the week is, how much candy do you expect to eat after Halloween? We were discussing this before the show started, and to be honest, I mentioned points would be awarded for creativity, so I had to start this off with a bang. As much as could fit in the cargo bay of a shuttle. That's what I'm going with.
Somebody's already stacked the odds against us.
Yeah. He heard our prior answers and just kind of, here you go, I'm going to one-up you all before you even start. Here you go.
Well, I mean, I do it in the gaming world. You know, might as well start here too.
Try.
Anyway, I am Cola Queen, a moderator for Sir Proper on Twitch.tv. I'm not really famous in any other way.
Internet famous.
And how much candy would I eat? Well, being a diabetic, I probably shouldn't eat that much.
Would you at least eat as much as you could without getting too sick?
Yeah, well, insulin is a good thing. But it being Halloween, you know, there's going to probably be a bag or two of candy corn. Probably not a shuttle's worth, because that would kill me. Thanks, sir.
So what she's saying is like 2 handfuls. That's it.
Sounds about right.
We both know that's not true, though, considering some of our conversations about jelly beans and stuff. I know that's not the case. No healthy diabetic decisions for you.
Let's maintain my integrity in the broadcast world, and I'll talk about that.
Okay, so we are having a new guest, especially for this topic, as well as may have him on in the near future. I want to introduce you guys to Icy Mike, and I'll let him do the rest.
Icy Mike, I'm a moderator as well as an admin for Sir Proper on Twitch TV and on Bungie.net for the Adventure Society. We play quite a bit as of late. Just tearing it up, I guess.
You're actually getting me back into PvP. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing yet.
We'll soon find out.
I am swearing a lot more during my streams because of you. I don't think I've sworn as much as you know, when we were doing The Last of Us, you know, grounded playthrough, but pretty close.
Yeah.
So, did you come up with an answer?
I don't know. I have a bit of a sweet tooth, so it's literally if I can eat it, I'm gonna stuff it in my mouth. I know that sounded wrong, and I didn't think about it.
No, that's just so perfect for you, Mike.
No, I'm that person that everybody hates. I'm that skinny fat ass.
You know, that reminds me. So I was taking this class, and one of the partners for our group project, she was a manager at a fitness place, and they have a term for people. They're called skinny fat people. It's basically these. Yeah, you might be skinny, but like you can't lift it like a 10-pound weight.
Actually, I can lift quite a bit.
Well, no, it's no.
Like I'm in
the
shape.
term. You said the term. Made me think of it. You're not a skinny fat ass if you can lift more than 10 pounds.
Oh no, I can lift more than my weight.
How much do you even lift, bro?
Not as much as some of my buddies that do go to the gym, but
Okay.
I mean, I haven't gone to the gym as of late. I mean, I've just been not caring to, I guess, would be the...
I just gotta point out, I grew up on a farm, so I don't necessarily lift, but I do lift. So
You push stuff.
I push stuff, pick stuff up, haul stuff. So, anyways, moving right along away from the frivolous topics of my history, which everyone thinks that I had to have like 3 childhoods to do everything that I've done. We're going to talk about 3 topics. They're a little bit more general than some of our normal fare, but I think they're in the lieu of games that are coming out right now, like Shadow of Mordor, or I should say are out, Shadow of Mordor, Destiny.
That's out.
Yeah, I know. I mean, like in this season that have been coming out in this season. Three big topics I feel are coming up in a lot of different ways. Maybe not necessarily by name, but I think they need to be talked about. So we're going to start with loot engagement, leveling, and limited spaces. And yes, I did theme them all to be L's because I'm a word nerd like that.
La 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 la.
La, 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 la. Yeah, exactly. Word nerd. Okay, so on the topic of loot engagement. Now, Cole, I happen to know that you've been playing Dragon Age, and I know loot is actually a pretty big part of the original Dragon Age Origins. So let's go ahead and start with you. What is your kind of takeaway, and where do you think loot as an engaging mechanic in a game should go?
Well, if we're talking specifically about Dragon Age, one of the things they do is you can't open locked chests unless you're a rogue. So you can't be a mage and learn lockpicking like you can open world game like Skyrim or other.
Hold on, you're breaking up there a little bit.
Yeah,
Oh,
check.
sorry. How's that? Is that better?
Yes.
Yes, much better.
Okay. So you have to be a rogue in order to open any locked chests. So that already limits your ability to get loot if you play a different type of character.
And if I remember right, in Dragon Age Origins, that's resources as well as like gold and other things. I mean, you can be fairly significantly limited if you don't invest in that.
Here, I have a question about that though, because I remember in Origins, if you had a rogue follower, they could open up the chest.
Yeah, they could.
They
But
could.
you
But
still
what
have
that
to in
means,
Inquisition.
yeah, every time you come across a locked chest, you have to have a rogue in your party, and you have to switch to the rogue to open the chest. Like they won't go into.
As it was.
So it makes looting things like that a bit more tedious when you're playing a different character.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes it harder if you don't keep a rogue in your party, because then you miss out, usually, and as the game goes on and levels, usually on some very nice kind of equipment.
Yeah, so you have to base your whole team setup about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
exactly.
remember it being somewhat of a thing of like, almost including a rogue in the party, not necessarily for the fact that they were helpful, but because you needed the loot that was almost essential towards late game, some of the nastier fights. Because, like, for me, I like to fight everything that's possible in the game, and even with over-leveling, some of those fights in Dragon Age Origins, without good equipment, were a lot tougher, and you didn't necessarily have those resources if you didn't loot. And I remember personally from Dragon Age Origins specifically that the rogues, for whatever reason, were like made of tissue paper because they're almost always the first to go down.
Oh yeah, they were.
Especially AI
Well,
rogues.
I think the one thing about rogues in Dragon Age is they're not meant to be tanks. So there are 2 types of rogues. There's the melee rogue and the archer rogue. And obviously the archer rogue is meant to be a ranged character that stands back. And a melee rogue is not meant to be like a Russian tank type of character. They're meant to be stealthy
Wait, Russian tank?
backstabbers.
So can he be an American tank?
No.
It's a Japanese tank.
Japanese tank. Gotcha.
So they're meant to sneak in while the tank characters are kind of engaging and backstab while the tank is fighting someone. So I think the problem is if a lot of people, if they don't figure this out and they use a rogue in a very open melee style, like a just charge in kind of style, they will get killed quite easily. Because they'll always wear lighter armor and have different. They won't have as high strength. They won't have as high a constitution.
Now we're a little off topic, but I do want to address that real quick. I found that yes, that's exactly true, and the problem is I like to play a rogue in Dragon Age Origins because if you knew what you were doing, you could do some massive damage as a rogue. But I found that I had to almost spec all of my rogue followers, if I was going to use them, as archers so that they would stay out of face tank combat, because if you didn't manually control everything that they did, chances are as soon as you stopped paying attention to them, the AI would rush into the first target and get annihilated.
Yeah, I mean, there's some issues with the AI in Dragon Age Origins where melee characters being engaged by other melee characters just have like an all-out face-to-face fight. So even a ranged character like an archer, instead of like in your team, instead of running to the back to fire their arrows, they'll just start engaging in melee combat. It's annoying, but I'm currently playing as a rogue and as an archer, and as the player character, I enjoy it immensely because I know how to control my character so that I get the best out of her as an archer. It also means that I can open all the bloody chests without having to switch character.
Right.
And another thing about loot in Dragon Age is that unlike a game like Skyrim, loot is usually scripted. So certain boss kills, they always drop the same stuff. Certain places, you always get the exact same loot in a specific chest. There's not a whole lot of randomness going on, so I mean, there's almost like there's not a thing like unlimited loot that you can get in some games because it's not really a game that you can farm in. So it's not like you're gonna constantly go back to an area and fight enemies again, where you can farm.
Dragon Age Origins. If I remember correctly, Dragon Age Origins is, I'd almost say, almost a survival horror fault, limited in loot. Like, you definitely can't get everything in the game unless you really milk certain things. And
I mean, there are ways to get more gold that you can buy, like legendary equipment and stuff, but it's not through farming kill.
No. But how now? We both know from Dragon Age Origins where you get the loot is from limited encounter chests. I'm thinking like The Last of Us. You have limited resources, almost painfully so, for no good reason at times.
And they have like unlimited amounts. That would
really... that's a gaming issue, and I think we can talk about that a little bit in leveling, but. Destiny, for instance, I would say one of the biggest things that they're suffering from right now is a bad loot engagement. To wit, that's a fun phrase to use. Giving loot to trash mobs and loot cave-itis. Dealing with the idea of a core loot engagement, like for Dragon Age. Okay, so in Dragon Age, you had to engage with a character that is in some ways more difficult to play in order to get much better loot, because some of these locked things give you access to much better things than you would normally just come across. And
kind of like a reward kind of thing, right. Playing a certain way.
Exactly, and even like if you didn't play a rogue from the first part, you can actually, since you don't have access to a rogue party member, you actually can miss out on a lot of starting gear and stuff because it's locked. And now you talk about a game like Destiny or to some points like Skyrim where you can just go into any loot fest area and just murder things to get their gear. Destiny has this unfortunate issue of they stuck some potential for high-end loot off trash mobs, resulting in people not engaging with the content that Bungie created, like strikes, patrol missions, and stuff like that, but they're instead doing what people are now dubbing a loot cave. Basically, the mechanic is Bungie tried to develop a system where enemies aren't just popping in spawn, popping in, referring to like if you've ever played World of Warcraft or many other MMO type games, enemies just appear. Well, Bungie wanted to address that with enemies naturally migrating onto the field, so they solved part of the problem with these caves where the enemies from an unseen vantage point come into the environment so that the player isn't constantly forced to suspend disbelief by seeing enemies just magically, boop, there they are.
Like
But
with WoW, they do have some mobs drop some really rare gear, but it's so minute of a chance that it's not worth the time to
cool. Yeah, like world rare. If you're talking about
like
world
world,
legendaries and stuff like that.
yeah, like world
Yeah.
loot, which are some of the best loot you can find for whatever level it is, but the chances of finding some of them were
Like less than 1%. I mean,
0.05, I think was the highest for some of them.
yeah.
And they're tradable across characters. I mean, they made them so that you could, if you got one and you didn't want it, you could sell it. And usually, a lot of people made like twink characters. I don't know if anybody knows what those are.
Yeah.
Where you'd cap yourself at a certain level and you'd get the best gear you could for that character. And
To explain the term twinking was to tweak out with gear and everything you could possibly shove onto the character to make a lowest level character with the highest amount of damage threshold to play in PvP situations. I mean, it's another one of those trying
min-maxing, pretty much.
yeah, min-maxing, but to the ultimate and kind of teasing low level combat to the point of making it so that you have an overwhelming advantage against people who would, normally aggregate to it. It's kind of cheese mode, but there was almost a fine art to that, and people
wasn't
doing
something
it.
easy to do.
Yeah, it was kind of a thing people pitted themselves against. But that's another loot engagement, though. Like trying to figure out what the best possible loot, the enchantments that you can stick on for the lowest level requirement, the gears, and there was actually different tiers and different like things that you could do, and like the what twinking that would go on at level 19 versus 29 versus
Usually
39.
it was even numbers like 20, 30, stuff like that.
It was the level before the even because it wasn't. I'm going to disagree with you because it was always the level before because at the next even level 10 it was 20, 40 and something else.
60, there was one as
Yeah.
well.
Those were when the next phase started and you started at the bottom of the barrel again.
Yeah.
So you always wanted to be like 19.
Well, they changed it actually the last few years. I believe
really?
they've changed it to every 10 levels. You go from 0 to 9.
Oh, that's interesting. That changes that dynamic because you're trapped in a lower loot tier now. That's interesting.
Yeah.
But that's a loot engagement. People finding these things, trading them. There's a commodity market for them. Obviously, in a game like Destiny, where trading is not allowed, that's not what's going on. So everyone's kind of out for their own benefit.
Yeah.
So if you have a somewhat reliable chance to get, these engrams, they're kind of a loot token, if you will, and you can get these off of the easiest to kill mobs in the game at a comparatively easy rate.
At the same rate, but it's faster to kill them.
Exactly. It's just, quote unquote the same rate across the board, but it's a level 8 mob that is literally funneling out of the cave onto a level 20 plus's guns to skewer them into oblivion. I mean, it's not even a fair contest at the point. Whereas the raid is a once weekly chance to get gear. As we were, I've been trying to get Quinn in here to talk about, because I wanted him in here for this specific reason. But raiding, you get a one shot per week chance at raid gear. The only way to get to level 30 in the game, and Quinn has run it every week basically since raiding came out. And this week right now was the first week that he got any gear, any armor for his hunter that he has been running through the raid.
See, I got most of my gear. I got all of it except my helmets that I did get. My helmet. I got a new helmet this week, but besides that, my first week I ran it was the only time I ever got gear. And then I'd run it 3 times consecutively on all 3 of my characters every day, or like every week, ever since that first week. And no gear, no weapons. I mean, I've gotten my hand cannon. That's it.
Well, we just got that this week, and that was a huge deal for both of us. And we came to the conclusion that there was no point in running the raid on normal anymore, because to run it on hard, you got 2 chances per encounter at a higher tier of loot, which meant more likely payout. But then that begs the question of, if it's so hard to get loot from something that is the content that they carefully crafted, why is anyone wanting to engage with that versus going out and killing the easiest to kill mobs for loot? Yeah. And I think that's looking at a lot of games, loot engagement then becomes a big question. How are we rewarding the players for playing the game?
Yeah. Like that one thing you brought up before, or I think it was yesterday, about adding resources to the loot tables.
Right. Because that's the thing. People spend hours running around in a circle, opening chests, trying to find these randomly spawning resources versus engaging with the content. In fact, many people just bypass the enemies completely just to loot resources. And so you have this disparity on both sides. But
then that seems a bit weird. Like, why would you play a game just to get loot?
Right.
I mean,
well, that's one of the biggest things that keeps a lot of MMOs alive. If you really think about it, it's that loot engagement. It's just enough to keep people interested.
Right. And I think the random loot system is actually really cool in Destiny, but I think it needs to be allocated in the right places. One of the biggest, I've actually prompted that basically to more or less take the chance for these loot tokens, these engrams, out of the trash mobs table and replace that with resources, which you mentioned from our previous conversation.
My thing to that was also no gray mob to your level. A gray mob should not drop loot.
Oh yeah, no kidding. They should have resources.
A yellow one, yes. A red one, even higher chance. That's my solution to that, because then you're still getting loot off of mobs. You have a little bit better chance of getting it, but it also gets them doing the current tier that they should be doing for their level, instead of staring at a cave, shooting into a black hole.
Yeah, no, and that's a big thing. But let's talk about Diablo. Diablo is a game literally loot centric. The whole concept of the game is to pimp my avatar. I want to be able to do whatever I want, however I want to, with whatever build I want. So you got to get the loot for that. And that's a game that uses where loot can drop from anywhere. But I think Diablo 3 especially
from a higher level characters as well.
Right. But I would say Diablo 3 has actually done a couple of things well. Is that where you're more likely to get the loot that you need to progress is from the harder difficulties. Where you get the loot is from a separated instance called Rifts, and Greater Rifts now, where
they also have seasons as well if you're on PC.
Where you're going after loot and these harder contents, you're actually engaging with the harder content in order to get the better loot. Whereas Destiny, in its attempt to, I think, part of the whole lateral leveling system has made a big misstep with the whole loot given to low mobs.
Yeah, see, that's one thing I do like about Diablo 3. They have years of doing this behind them because it is Blizzard. Blizzard, yes, it's a big company. Some of their things I don't agree with, but they know how to make a game and make it work. They know how to make it so people like it. They make it just enough so you don't get bored and just enough to keep you going.
I'd almost argue that point because people were complaining the crap out of Diablo 3 until, they basically got rid of the real world money market.
Yeah, that was a little bit broken on the PC. I'm not gonna lie, I did take a part of that. I only put $20 in the game, but the amount of gold you could get for $20 was ridiculous. Once people noticed that, it inflated the auction house, and a lot of people just ended up not even using it.
Yeah, which is kind of cool to the fact that they realized what kind of a sinkhole that they had created for themselves.
And then what they did when they released Reapers is they pretty much, if you had all the old loot, they scrapped it pretty much. It's considered legacy loot, and you got new roles, higher, better roles that would make your gear better, and they were called the new loot. It was Loot 2.0 was the update.
Now, in light of that, we're definitely coming from this from one direction, Cola. But do you see a progression state? Like, should we be, as a gaming industry, should we be moving away from the easy loot to things that are more engaging? To, like, I don't know. My thought on this, at least as a motivation, is to better engage the player with a kind of sense of the story, the emergent story. Like, do you see that as being a valid progression, or am I just, off my rocker, really?
No, I think that's story progression is always the most important thing to concentrate on. But it's funny, as you guys were talking about the Destiny system in Diablo, I was trying to think, like, what games have I played where the loot system, I could say is like my favorite. And I would definitely say that it's in games like Skyrim or Oblivion, in the Bethesda games, where everything is loot, but not all loot is created equal. So
Some of the best
anything that isn't nailed, everything that isn't nailed down, you can take, you can sell, you can do something else with. I'm thinking about, like, the guy who filled up one of the shops in one of the cities with cheese wheels and buried the people alive in cheese wheels. And, I did a similar thing in one of the towns. I filled the river with, like, melons, and everywhere I went, I would just steal melons and put them in this river when I got back. And and then, like, when I was desperate for cash in the game, because in Bethesda games, you always seem to be desperate for cash. You just steal everything, and then you try and sell it, which is much harder in Skyrim than it was in Oblivion. But, and also the loot level. So if you go in a dungeon and you open a chest, you might get 10 gold this time around, but if you waited, you were like level 25, you might have gotten like 100 gold. You know what I mean? So you might get like an iron suit of armor this time, but next time you might get steel. So it made the loot more interesting and a bit more random, because it depended on your level what you were going to get. Not all enemies drop the same loot every time.
Right.
And so you could do a battle, get loot, and then decide to go back to a previous save and come back to the same battle and get different loot. And I think for me, that makes it more engaging. As you know, I never play multiplayer, so I don't know.
Your mic's having issues again.
Yeah, I've noticed it keeps going up and down, like it's fluctuating.
Sorry, it's because I'm holding my phone to my face.
That's way better now.
Okay, I'm trying to hold it really close. So, like, I mean, there's probably some different issues that you have in a big multiplayer game like Destiny, where in order to be equal with other people or get ahead, you have to have better loot, you have to have more money, whatever the currency is. And in single-player games, in RPGs, you know, you can be a bit more creative. If you play a game enough, you can figure it out and learn all the quirks. And, you know, I mean, you can use cheats, but I never used cheats.
Except that one time.
Except that one time.
Except that one time.
There's always that one time once you just beat the game, you just want to just fool around.
You know, Cole, you actually totally made me think of something and stream at the same time. I would like to give a shout out to Everything is Awesome, who actually used Leap Speak correctly in their name. First off, they mentioned, you know, they just happened to talk about the exotic bounties. Which bounty should I take? So in Destiny, there's the exotic bounty system. It's part of the RNG system as well. So when you're turning in bounties, you have a chance to get rewarded with a chance to do an exotic bounty. Whoa! The end game, you know, result of an exotic bounty is that you get an exotic. So you know that it's guaranteed loot. So in that case, it's kind of like, ooh, fancy loot. And then I was just thinking about Skyrim. Skyrim has these kind of hidden quests for loot, doing the Daedric quests and stuff like that. And some of the best things in the game can be gotten in that way. And I think that's something that, you know, I can remember doing those quests in Skyrim, and I've done the exotic bounties, and I honestly think that's one of the best loot engagement systems that are currently in a lot of games, is the game where you know that there is an end reward of some larger value, but you have to jump through the hoops to get it. You know, you're gonna have to earn it. And I think that's one of the biggest things where this whole, hey, I got a bunch of random loot, and it just happened to turn into, lucky jackpot day, I got an exotic. You're taking people away from the content that you created. And, you know, when you have that kind of disparity, you know, exotic for practically free.
Farming.
Yeah, exactly.
What we were talking about. So they're spending all their time farming. And to me, that's like, well, that's not playing a game, because what are you engaging with? You're just killing mob after mob after mob after mob in order to hopefully get that better bit of loot.
That just reminds me of, like, pulling weeds growing up as a kid. My parents had a nursery farm, and part of the job was to pull weeds in the field. Yeah, the end goal was you get rewarded by your parents. Usually, you know, we, you know, got something out of the deal, but at the same time, it was like you're just, you know, you're pulling that next thing. It's very tedious and meticulous. You know, not something that's very fun and interesting. Yeah.
Well, and I mean, going back to Dragon Age, so they added a lot of DLC, and some of those DLCs, the main purpose is you go through, you have to do some fighting, you might have to do some puzzle solving, but, like, as you say, the ultimate reward is a really good bit of loot that you wouldn't get in the rest of the game.
Help get people on run it with you. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. Roommate.
That's right. But it gave you a little bit extra story and a quest that you had to do in order to get that new piece of equipment that wasn't available in the normal game.
Right. I definitely I remember like doing like I think it's the Grey Warden's Keep or something like that, and you get like you can get some of the really cool specialty armors and stuff for doing that, and I just think loot engagement is a thing that makes or breaks a game. Like I remember playing Dishonored, and the loot was given almost in kind of a collectibles fashion.
I like Dishonored. It
No,
was
I
it
do
was an
too.
interesting way to look at loot.
I loved Dishonored, but at the same time, the kind of almost collectibles engagement with loot I think was kind of tedious.
But they also had it so you could buy certain loot as
Yeah,
well.
well, you could buy, but some of the best stuff in the game you had to like track down through these little like clues and stuff like that, and that can be kind of cool. But and
It's a
Dishonored
different
did it
change
in
of
a
pace.
lot of better ways than other games, but oftentimes it was mixed right in the middle of a story that has this kind of impetus and momentum, and they're like, oh, and by the way, go sidetrack for this loot. And I thought that was very kind of breaking from the flow and feel of the
It
story
pulled
and
away
game
from the
itself.
story. I will agree on that. But it was for like us, we like to adventure a lot.
Oh yeah.
We like to search things. That's not as big of a deal. But for somebody who's not like that, it does pull away from the story.
And we are the Adventure Society, and one of the reasons I even invited Mike to the clan was because we like to do crazy things and try and figure out interesting things. Explore environments that most people just breeze right through. Um, and this was apparently from hanging out with a guy that's mostly, focused on PvP, PvP terms.
Hey, I'm very good at what I do. I'm good at searching little nooks and crannies. Like, I was one of the first few people to ever find that third ghost in the new DLC area on
Yeah,
Venus.
which we totally broke into because, again, the Adventure Society, we got to go explore shit. But it's there's a lot of different questions and answers regarding loot engagement, and I think that's one Destiny itself is struggling with right now. And as many people of my channel know, that is the game of the day, week, hour, month. Yeah. Um, and I think that's something that we need to see change. And I think we've seen conversations in the forums. At least I have. There's arguments over the gaming news feeds and stuff regarding loot, talking about loot caves, why the loot caves are an issue, patches to fix this stuff. Whereas I think the
Little
answer
Easter eggs.
right. I think that where the answer isn't being looked at is in the place it needs to be looked at, which is loot engagement. How do you engage your audience to do the content, to get the loot from where you want them to be doing the content?
See, they wouldn't have to do all these patches if they would fix the problem at its source.
Exactly. And that's the reason I think this is a really valid topic. Now, I think we've kind of talked that horse into the ground, beating a dead horse and all. Um, but let's go ahead and I'll let Mike choose since he's a guest here. Should we go on with leveling or limited spaces?
It's a fair game between the both. I mean, I have my own opinions on both.
We'll pick the next one we talk about.
Well, I guess space, because that's more of my bigger concern.
Ooh, yeah.
Because that's something in every game. They always give you a way to upgrade it. But like in Destiny, you're stuck with 9 slots per character thing, which I have absolutely no problem with. That limits you. It makes you think about what you're going to carry with you.
Yeah.
Then you get the vault, which is shared between up to 3 characters. You're only getting 20 for armor, 20 for guns, and 20 for miscellaneous. Well, miscellaneous, there's a lot of miscellaneous that goes in there.
Ships, emblems, shaders to start with,
Pretty much everything.
resources, and
if you universify your resources like you've started to get me do, that takes up a good chunk of your vault. And if
Yeah.
you're wanting to like hold on to like all the color shaders, because you never know, you might find one that eventually will look good with a
certain
certain
set of
type of
armor. Yeah. Yeah, no, and besides limited spaces in looting systems, organizing, like Dragon Age Origins has a very limited space for loot as well. I mean, we've been dealing with limited loot spaces for a long time, and making the decision of what goes in my inventory and what's worth it. But then you have games like WoW where you buy your bank slots and you open
But
as many
even then,
tabs.
you're limited to
Oh.
however big your bags are.
Right,
Which-
but I mean, you're constantly dealing with this struggle about space versus, resource or materials, weapons, stuff like that. And that's an interesting argument, but I'm actually going towards limited spaces in the, like, for instance, in Destiny, we're playing in these spaces, yet just beyond the horizon we can see all these other spaces that we can't get to.
Yeah.
Or like Dragon Age Origins is a perfect example of very limited space, and the second Dragon Age was even worse. These very scrawny, controlled, manipulated maps in order to route you through areas. I think in some ways we're seeing almost a negative trend in this regard. Destiny, yeah, I mean it's got some amazing vistas and stuff like that you can only really get by peering over the horizon, so I get that. But when they talk about whole planets available and they give us a space that I would say is no more than a tenth or less of this space, it starts feeling very crowded, very limited, much like our loot inventories feel right now in the vault thing.
Yeah.
So,
Definitely. I mean, it's hard to play. When you've played a game like Skyrim
OG.
or Oblivion or any Bethesda game, and then
I
you
like
go play a
Oblivion.
game...
I'm not gonna lie.
If you go play a game like that, which is really open world,
Open.
and then you go play a linear, limited space game like Dragon Age, or as you say, Destiny, or even something really claustrophobic like a Resident Evil.
Corridors for days.
You know the possibility, and then you wonder what is the motivation between making you have a very limited area in one game and a very open world in another. Particularly in RPGs, because you think now all RPGs should be open world as possible.
Yeah, like a game like Resident Evil. Okay, I understand limiting the space creates tension because you're manipulating the space, and I kind of understand that a little bit more. But at the same time, it's like if you're in a building and stuff be coming in to get you, and it's going all cray cray, why the hell wouldn't you be going the hell out of that building? And like, oh, magically locked door that I can't get out. There's a window. Break that damn window. I mean, it's these
Find a way
weird.
out.
There's these weird tropes that like they put, and it's almost as bad as like movies. And like, this is the suspend your disbelief and you're stuck. I mean, yeah, but then you run into games where Destiny, it's a hybrid of the two sorts. You have this open space, yet you're still confined within this, I'd almost say, drop in the bucket versus the ocean that you're even seeing from the rest of the vistas. One of the coolest things, though, I have to agree that Destiny did is, like, the buried city on Mars. You can see these large buildings that you can eventually get towards the part of it in the background. From the place that you start, you can see clear into the next zone.
But there's also other areas where it's not quite so.
Right, exactly. And it's like, is it like, because obviously they're controlling the space to try and control the variables.
Like with the tower, like you can see the entire city. I want to explore the city. I don't care if
Right.
there's anything to do there. They can make that the new social area. That would be cool.
And I think because we've been exposed to things like Skyrim, where we have like, oh, this is an island. We are literally giving you an island to work your way across. I mean, it takes time in Skyrim if you're not fast traveling to get from point A to point B.
Or if you have the fast horse, I forgot what its name was. It was the one you get
Even
from.
even with the fast horse, it still takes time. Like if you're going from point A on the edge of the coast to point B on the opposite edge of the coast, I don't even care if you're on that horse, Shadowmere or what,
Yeah, it was Shadowmere. That was the name. It was like it's Shadow something.
if you're on that horse, that's one of the fastest horses in the game, and it still takes time. Like
It takes a good 10 to 20 minutes at least. Unless you do
as
the
long as you're not
Skyrim
getting
hop
sidetracked.
and
let's
open mountains.
not get as long as you don't get like sidetracked a half a dozen times, because then that's a normal gaming day of Skyrim where it's like 5 hours and you're like, what the hell did I even do?
Like, what was I originally doing?
I can't remember
Well,
where I'm
that's that you
going.
can spend days just like following one coastline,
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
just to see where it goes and what kind of stuff you'll find. And, I mean, I remember in Fallout 3, like,
Oh, I
people
love Fallout 3.
spent,
Oh,
nobody
God,
played the
Fallout.
story in Fallout 3. Everyone just spent all their time exploring the edges of the map.
It was like they tried doing that again. I think it was Obsidian something or whatever did that with New Vegas. They added a lot of new cool stuff. They added a lot more to loot as well, and you had a bit more openness with how you did your backpack as well.
Oh yeah, more
Keeping in line with space. You could, if you did like the survival skill tree, which was a new one that they added with that, you could make certain foods that would give you strength buffs, and that would increase your capacity, which was an interesting thing. But you don't see too many games pull that kind of concept. I know there's another couple games where they have like potions that increase your like capacity. I don't remember what game it was, but I played it recently.
all I know is most games rely on hammer space. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
In Diablo, being able to carry like 4 sets of armor is ludicrous.
2 was usually what you could hold. You would usually make yourself 2 different types of classes. Like you'd make yourself 2 builds for 2 different occasions.
Yeah.
Anything in between, you had to mix it up. Like
I'm being a little exaggerative for point, but like you can easily, I would say, in Diablo 3, you can plan it out, and I would say you could easily have 3 full sets of armor.
Well, also a difference in that game was, if I remember right, the console you're not given like the grid like in the PC version. The
No,
PC
you
version,
actually
you're
have
given a grid, and you got to make your items fit in it.
You have a certain number of inventory spaces, and like
Each
I think
takes up
you get
certain.
up to like 60 spots, and like everything just takes up 1 as far as I remember.
Diablo 2 did it with like you had some items that were like 2x4.
Right.
If you're thinking
And
slots.
I know in Diablo 3 they dramatically limited that, but
Oh, yeah. It's usually a
that's
2x1 or
own-
just a 1x1.
that's its own metagame in space. Like, I don't know if you've ever played Path of Exile, but like getting stuff to fit, like there is so much loot in that game and so very
It
little
was like playing Tetris.
inventory. Yeah, you're playing this metagame of space, but I mean, in some ways you're playing within that space, much like we would in a confined space within a game world, where part of our decisions and immersion, like what am I actually keeping on this character, what is actually valuable to me, becomes an interesting question, and I think we can move that idea of loot spaces to the exploration spaces. What's actually important to me in my environment, and for us of the Adventurous Society, I think a lot of us would resoundingly say spaces to go and do and see interesting things. Because I know for me, some of my most entertaining and interesting moments have come from exploring something that people didn't expect, people of Bungie didn't expect us to see or mess with or tinker with or dive into.
See, I know a good game that we should eventually get to play as a clan or group or whatever you want to call would be like Borderlands, because Borderlands they give you benefits and stuff for exploring. They throw little Easter eggs everywhere. And it's fun to go around and try and find little nooks and crannies that have those things. Like, some of them were really, really hard to find.
Oh
And
man,
they're
there
really
was in
interesting.
Borderlands 1, you could find like a lot of loot chests if you were willing to engage with the game's movement mechanics and verticality. And, like, you're running along these ledges and like hopping up on like clefts of buildings so you could jump up to another one, and that was a very interesting mechanic. And I'd say there's some of that in Destiny, which is why I find it so engaging. But
They don't really enforce it enough. I mean, they pretty much the only time they really, really use it is for like ghosts. That's the only place I've really seen them hide things in a very intricate way. Every once in a while, you get a chest or something hid like that. But besides that, they don't benefit it as much. It's usually ghosts that are
see,
given that.
then you have like Dragon Age Origins, where basically you just check the edges of the map and you're pretty much done for looting. I mean,
Well, that's it.
necessarily.
Once you've done all the quests in that area, you get nothing.
right?
Well, like some of the really hidden secrets that were in that game.
I was going to say, when you were saying earlier about the jumping around, the thing that they missed out in Skyrim was that specifically. You could no longer really, like, there's no more an acrobat
Oh,
skill.
freaking acrobatics from Morrowind! Oh my gosh, I got
They had that in Oblivion as well.
That's what I was thinking. In Morrowind, it was brilliant.
So awesome.
You could like find your way into like a building that you normally couldn't get into by doing some crazy acrobatics and like breaking in through like a top floor window because there was like it was connected to like and you know you could explore all these inner spaces that you could get into from the outside, and it was brilliant. And I loved in Oblivion. I mean, I had a character who just ran all over the tops of the buildings like it was Assassin's Creed.
Your mic. Clear.
Yeah, you're doing the thing with the mic again.
Sorry. And the thing I really missed in Skyrim was that you could no longer do that.
Yeah, I had to say, and yes, you could do it to a point in Oblivion, but Morrowind, best way to level up a character, just jump everywhere.
You know,
Just keep jumping, and but
just
pretty
joking
soon,
around as well while you were doing it. It was
pretty soon, you know, like you get your walking skill, stealth skill, acrobatics.
you get it all done at the same time, and
Yeah,
it was really
it was
easy.
so
to do.
amazing, and you can make it super fast characters. It was so awesome.
But it just made everything more explorable as well. You know, there were like places you
remember
couldn't get
bounding.
to.
Here, I'm gonna be right back. I need to go to the bathroom, but keep on going.
I was gonna say one of my favorite parts of Morrowind, because I was playing this way back in the day on the Xbox, the original Xbox, before I had a good gaming PC, before I got into modding and stuff like that on the PC. But one of my favorite things to do, and I thought was one of the coolest and most interesting things to do in the game for Morrowind, was literally starting to get into bounding traversal because my acrobatics was so thinking high from just engaging with the environment. And I got to be where, like, with just like one minor spell that you could enchant where it like gives you the slow fall or whatever it was, you could then like permanent enchant slow fall and then just bound across your environment and explore and traverse in an entirely new way. And I think with Destiny having as much built-in mobility, having all these enclosed spaces is kind of weird, almost unnatural,
When your
because
characters can actually fly
Yeah.
across like open chasms to then put them in like a cave,
yeah.
as I saw on one thing you were doing. It just seemed weird to me. I was like, what's the point of that then?
That and giving sniper rifles as a weapon to use, and then limiting the spaces in which you can engage with them. Like, for instance, PvP maps. Almost all the PvP maps are very crowded and cramped and has lots of obstructions in the way. And yeah, that's good for play, but at the same time, to play as a sniper, you essentially have to be a camper. You have to find some tiny corner to hide in that has a long view of a certain corridor, and that's like the one place you can be, which then makes it very obvious every time someone's going to camp, they're most likely going to go into these, and I don't know, it's like you taking away the effectiveness of a weapon that you're putting in the game. Um, then you're also cramping up the space to explore, and I think right now that's actually one of, along with a loot engagement issue, I think that if I were to be critical, which I do have my opinions, um, Destiny is far too cramped for not only the way they give us weapons and the way that they give us mobility. Like, I feel like our mobility is very undervalued. Like, we found ways to one of the top of the maps by using just their environment and just the mobility options, but at the same time, then we're punished for engaging with the environments that they created in a way because it doesn't fit with what they intended for the space. But it's like you're designing something that seems kind of contrary to the
They're
specific engagement that you're wanting.
they're being hypocritical, I guess, in a sense, wouldn't it? Because
I hate to throw around the hypocritical word, but yeah, I don't want to say give us the space and then try and take it away is kind of...
they give us the tools to do what we're doing, and then they say, oh, but we don't want you to do that. Well, you gave us the ability to do that, and you put the escape there for us to do it. We found an interesting way to play the game, and we made it work.
Yeah.
You know? Like, especially with the Vex. I like the Vex maps, because they give the most ability for...
Oh, they're so much fun to explore. But I actually think the Vex are really cool, and I honestly think that they should have found some more interesting ways to punish the player, if anything, quote unquote punish the player for doing things, rather than just paint the map with area that's going to kill you if you go into it. Have the freaking boss teleport right on you. Like these murderous robots can teleport everywhere else. Why not just have like a penalty for, doing something that they didn't want? Do something that ends up killing you. Because I can tell you, having the boss teleport and immediately do that stomp right on top of the people way out on that ledge would cause all sorts of interesting and fun repercussions. Versus, hey, let's paint this area and prevent them from coming out there. Or trigger a bunch of hobgoblins if you go out on the edge, and then suddenly it's like sticking your head out gets everyone killed. There's just a lot of ways that they could have dealt with the issue and still allowed players to try and mess with their environment, because they made it and they gave us the tools to get around in it, yet they're just punishing us for trying to explore their environments. I'm not saying like glitching out a boss or doing any of that is any kind of special thing or requires much skill, because to be honest, once you know the rules behind it, it's fairly stupid simple, and it's not a great achievement. Yes, people do it because they want the loot, and I can understand that, but what really comes down to it is like you have to find more if you have control over the environment, you kind of have to manipulate it in more interesting ways than just say, no, you can't go there. Here's a barrier wall that you can't go past. Here's a kill zone if you go into this area. It just seems very hypocritical in design philosophy.
So what do we want? More loot? More space?
I would say more space for that loot that we should be getting.
Right, definitely. More space for the loot that we should be getting. Thinking of more creative ways to punish players if they're not engaging with the content in the way that they necessarily wanted us to.
Interesting ways of getting the loot as well as...
Oh yeah. Engage with the content. Like, they have these patrol missions, but what do they give? Rep and maybe a few tokens. That is very underwhelmingly boring. And they even included in the game a resource sink, yet they barely give you enough of the resources to upgrade your high-level gear.
Yeah, and then they don't have a sync for the stuff by the time you get to the end game stuff that you have. Let's say like you and me, where we're sitting on almost 1,000 or more of the.
I'm probably getting close to 2,000 Hadronic essences.
You play about twice as much as I do.
Right,
So,
yeah.
but the point is, for people that are our levels or whatever, we're sitting on a good chunk of class item material, and we only need maybe 32 per item to upgrade it
Yeah.
because you only use it for 2 upgrades, and then the last 3 are ascendant materials.
Yeah.
So there needs to be a
Do you think the problem in Destiny is that you've got all this high level loot, you've got high level characters, high level equipment, but there isn't enough new content to then go and use that with?
Well, there's that, and also like I've noticed a lot of people. If you notice a lot of people that are playing, it's either they're just above 24 or they get stuck at 24 because getting that first legendary is probably one of the hardest things in the game because the game just doesn't want to give it up. I mean, the easiest way to do it, of course, is rep grinding, but then people get burnt out on rep grinding trying to get just that rank 2, and then they can only get 1, maybe 2 pieces. That'll get them above that level 24 gap to maybe 25 or 26.
But then we're dealing again with loot engagement because if material resources were more available than potential chance for loot, you would actually have more people engaging with the rep system and purchasing stuff from the vendor that is guaranteed to get them where they need to be. But they had to earn it by, you get the materials.
But nobody wants to do those rep grinds because they're not getting anything during it. It's just like, oh, we're just grinding it, and eventually I will get that piece I want.
Right.
It's an eventuality, not a kind of a thing to keep them going. Like, even if they were just like, here's a blue engram every once in a while, or for doing the patrol missions, you get like a blue engram from each one.
Something like a minimum loot level from engaging the content rather than grinding, and the thing is if instead of giving chances for loot, which can be ultimately failures, you give them resources and you're getting like, oh, I'm ending up with, 300, 400 spin metal. Well, every 50 I turn in, I get some rep, which moves me towards getting that legendary. And since you can only earn 100 tokens per week, you're still guaranteed that you can't buy everything in a single week. In fact, it takes a minimum of 2 weeks to purchase a helmet because it's 120 marks. So if you're handing out marks and resources, it actually goes back to where in the beta, getting those resources matter. And getting them actually meant something. It goes right back into kind of that soapbox that I want to get on and go, Bungie, this is probably one of your biggest failing points, is bad loot engagement. Yeah. Okay. So, dead horses.
Awkward silence for you there.
Exactly.
We agree.
Yes.
I was just, that stuff. Stop.
I just kind of went blank for a second of where to take that. Not gonna lie.
I was actually gonna say, in awkward pauses that always leads to sex, but since this is on air, this is just really weird. Leveling.
2 of us are married,
Yeah, I
and
know.
not to each other.
Yeah, no. And Mike, I don't have a thing for you. Just saying.
Nope.
You're not my type. Leveling. The last point. You brought up leveling. You had your own transition. You put it right there, Mike. I can't believe you missed it.
No, I did, and then you kept going on with loot, and I was like, okay, I don't know where to keep going with loot.
Leveling. So, an interesting thing brought up by Destiny is a more lateral leveling system. And I've heard people keep talking about raising the loot cap level. Not loot level, but raising the level cap. Raising the level cap. Because that's the way they've been almost conditioned to expect, like Borderlands. What do they do when they bring out DLC, everyone? Raise the level cap! What does WoW do when they bring out the new DLC? Raise the level cap! But Destiny's trying to do something, and it's been kind of frustrating for me because I feel like
they're trying to change the game, but everybody's conditioned to one way.
Right, exactly. And I'm like, guys, you don't get it. They don't ever need to. They never actually need to raise the level cap. Like, 30 can be the end game. And, like, say if you have 30, you have a leg up on the next raid. But the next raid could be where you get your level 30 gear. And if they just change the mechanics, it's not necessarily the same. Now,
Well,
granted, I would say the only way really to effectively raise the level cap,
would be to do light level.
light level through more gear, but that provides a much stauncher kind of hard barrier versus power creep.
Yeah,
Whereas,
because if you really think about it, let's say we have a group of 30s. The
Mhm.
new raid, the only thing that's going to be interesting to us would be, yeah, the look of the new armor, yeah, if it stays at 30. But then there's the guns, they have their interesting loot and the interesting rolls that are on the guns and stuff. But besides that, then you're just like, oh, once you've seen it, and if you like the way your armor is, which would be the current raid gear, or the yellows you have, or the new yellows that they're bringing out, then you're just going to stick with it, and the raid won't be touched by as many people. They're like, I'm already level 30, why do this new stuff for that, you know?
and I think that's the most valid argument I've heard for raising the level cap in Destiny. Just
I mean, it
saying.
doesn't even have to be by much. I was talking to somebody a couple days ago, and it was like, what if we just raised it by, like, I don't know, 2-4 levels?
2 levels! Dude, in just 2 levels in the raid, that is a huge
Well,
difference.
think about it, though, but the only way to raise those 2 levels would be the new raid. That's what
Yeah.
I'm saying. It would
No,
give a reason for that raid.
And I think Destiny in some ways has, especially with normalizing damage against gray mobs, which, by the way, they normalize damage against gray mobs in order to non-trivialize the content, yet you can just dump randomly exotic loots on trash mobs to what? Make killing trash mobs more?
Yeah, that they tried to untrivialize one thing, but ended up still with the same problem. They didn't see that idea or thought all the way through. They half-assed it.
I kind of concur there.
Well, they normalize the damage so you're not like flying through it like one bullet kills like a whole group of guys, you know.
The breeze from this legendary bullet destroys all that come within 5 yards.
Let's say like you and me, we went into, let's say, the Devil's Lair with our new Fatebringers, explosive rounds fully maxed out. One shot's not going to take out the entire group of, let's say, Vandals.
But it will put some serious hurt on them.
It will. I'm not saying it won't, but it should.
Right.
But it's not like one bullet's going to, like, kill them, kill the captain behind them, you know? Like, the way, if they didn't normalize that damage would be monstrous to them.
So, I mean, like, it's interesting. They did a good thing to deal with power creep in that regard, but at the same time, they do things to trivialize the rest of their content, like, as far as loot.
Yeah.
That's
They should have kept with that same idea of normalizing it all the way through, even with loot, because then you wouldn't be having this loot cave-itis.
Thank you for stealing my term. I coined that term. Loot.
It's the clan term now.
Okay, fine. Clan term, whatever. But like, okay,
Cave though? Didn't they stop it?
that's the beautiful thing. Because of how Destiny is programmed to bring enemies onto the map, there's always going to be another loot cave until they literally patch the crap out of every spawn cave.
And eventually you're just going to walk into a map and there's not going to be a single enemy on the field, and then you have a dead game.
Yeah, it's going to be an empty zone because because any area where enemies can spawn in is the next loot cave. Because people are willing to wait rather than they are to do. And that's a really bad sign. Now, they did some good things like getting more loot to people who do the Tiger mission. Like, I'm guaranteed at
The
least
dailies as well. They added Cryptarch engrams to the daily and the normal weekly, which I really enjoy that, actually.
I'm guaranteed at least 2 blue engrams for doing a Tiger Strike. Minimum of 2.
Yep. And for like the weekly, I think you get 3.
Something like that.
28.
Yeah. Yeah, because I think it's 1 per level, so you end up with 3. Yeah.
Yeah.
But the thing is that helps, but it's like they haven't fixed the rest of the problem. But back into leveling, Dragon Age Origins. Okay, leveling. I found it almost.
Don't even talk to me about the leveling in Dragon Age Origins.
I remember it was kind of tedious.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
First of all, right, they have a 25 cap, and then the game makers don't even expect most players to be able to hit the 25th level.
Yes.
So they expect you to finish the game at level 22,
Really?
right? Unless you
25. I did every little thing in that game. You're
I
Michael.
mean, that's crazy. Like, what's the point of that? And then so you, like, I always feel like going into the end boss battle, like, I haven't got everything I need, but I've done everything I can do.
Yeah.
I remember, to be honest, in that game, like having to like maximize and get every drop of experience, and I was still hitting 24, 25 if I did absolutely everything in that game.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, down to a science practically of how to maximize.
Like if you went and looked for all the subclasses on one character, like you did all the missions for those.
Oh yeah, no, well,
But that's
not
the
only
thing, so
that,
even if
but dialogue rewards for experience and stuff like that.
Those
You
two.
you had to get everything to get there.
Yeah, they literally made it into you're squeezing the last little drop out of that sponge.
well, and if you don't get the kill, you don't get the same amount of XP, which
Yeah.
is the other thing. So when you're playing, again, you're playing a range character like a mage or an archer, or if you're playing a rogue that isn't tanking,
Yeah.
you know, more than likely
Oh.
you're going to get the end kill. So makes it harder. And like I've spent half of this playthrough walking around with that stupid belt that gives you XP for every for like every entry that you find, which is great. But on the other hand, it means you've now wasted an armor slot for something that you could use. And as an archer, that would be an archery belt, for instance.
I always swapped it on and off. To be honest.
Yeah, but I did that last time, but it just gets so tedious.
It does. But, you know, like, and then the problem with Dragon Age I found that is, like, if you do make it to 25, if you're not at 22, the power level difference is so different that by the time you get to the end boss, it's like, unless you totally screw it up, like, stand there and take it for, like, 3 attacks, or you let your teammates go haywire, you can pretty much, like, 2-3 shot the boss through a couple of, you know, key stacking.
And that was on
mechanics.
Origin, wasn't it?
Yeah.
With the Archdemon. I really enjoyed that battle. For me, it was a challenge my first time through because I think on my first time through, I think I hit 23. And it was a bit of a challenge because of my makeup. It also matters on what your team is. I mean, I did it with mine, Morgan. I forgot who my third character was, but I think I had the Quinari guy, Sten.
That's the second game, Quinari.
No, there was a Quinari in the first game. The guy's name was Sten. He was
Yeah,
a
Sten.
big warrior, dude. And me, I was a warrior as well. I did the that subclass you got from the elves. It was like Blood something, or I had the Blood Ravagers from the Dragon Quest prior to the end for the Ashes, and I also had the other one. The one you got from the elves, it was like a mage warrior or whatever, and it was a really strong combo between the two.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Because one, you could like certain types of hits or whatever would heal yourself, while the other one based your damage off of how much health you were losing.
Right.
So they worked very well together. I could literally face tank anything and everything, and he was more of just to pick up whatever I didn't grab.
Right.
And I had Morgan as just kind of that ranged dealer, and just she stomped everything and anything I didn't get. I had her pure curse, pure like slow. like, so I could take them out at my own pace. But usually I did have the rogue with me, but for like serious boss battles, I would take that team, and we would wreck.
See, I almost feel like the Dragon Age game should have, instead of making it so that it's painfully hard to get to 25, aim the content for 25, and make sure you're getting to that at the very least. And then from there, having like some kind of mastery points or something that, for those people that do eke out everything.
Kind of like the Paragon stuff, kind of like what Diablo is doing.
Right. But it's just, I had a go ahead.
BioWare in general is they try and what BioWare do is they make you make choices, and if you don't make choices, you're going to get into trouble. So you can't spread your points across all the different skills and abilities. You have
really
to
gotta think about it.
Yeah, you really have to think about it. So if you're going to be a rogue character, you have to invest in your dexterity and your intelligence, or cunning in Dragon Age. But if you're going to be a mage, you have to do magic. If you're going to be a warrior, you have to do strength. And you can't try and cover your bases by having higher constitution when you're a rogue early on, because you need to spend your points in the right places. And then when you go into the skill sets, you need to pick a line and stick with it until you're done, and then go to the next thing. You can't just pick one from one area and another from another area and try and spread it out evenly. They really do, and I think that is the key to optimizing your character and your leveling and staying alive in that game. Because when you don't do that, you die a lot easier.
Yeah, I found Dragon Age 2 in some ways almost trivialized that, whereas with a little bit of planning, you could essentially get everything, and then by the time you have everything, it's kind of like, well, then what do I do with all these, choices? But I feel like there needed to be a better system to deal with that leveling question, and I do like Destiny's lateral leveling, I level up to 20, and then my gear is determining it, and it's a system that's been kind of used by Guild Wars in both 1 and 2. Your level 20 is kind of the prologue, getting to the good stuff, and it ends up being that you still have to continue to level up your subclass, and then you have numerous levels of interesting choices of what skills I'm going to layer here and what skills I'm going to layer there to make my class work the way I want it to. And in some ways that helps alleviate the whole power creep issue, because that whole, in Dragon Age Origins, I got to level 25, the power creep was then so out of whack that I could essentially 3-shot the boss. And I actually ran into that problem with Knights of the Old Republic 1 and 2, is that if you are given enough time and opportunity to get past where the content was designed for, without any kind of normalization to the percentages, essentially, you can overwhelmingly destroy the content, and that's where power creep is an issue. My only issue is where is Destiny going from here? We know that Diablo is pretty much set on its whole Paragon system, which works, I think. I think it's a pretty good system. But it's almost like these 3 questions, loot engagement, leveling, and space, are quickly becoming 3 of the major defining answers of what a game's going to be like, and whether or not it survives almost. Would you guys agree with that at all?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, I think there's more that we could talk about leveling, but I honestly think we're getting pretty long on
Probably
this
do a
one.
whole podcast just focused on leveling.
I know leveling as an engagement and a mechanic versus collectibles as a way to diversify. There's there's just so many different ways to
We
look
could
at
do
that.
on collectibles as well, because those are sometimes they add leveling with collectibles, like certain games.
Like Destiny has promised that Grimoire is going to be worth something, and someone like me who has looked for the collectibles, found the things,
See, I don't
done
see it as useful as they said it would be. Like, yeah, it is when you rank up like your kill counts.
right.
The only time that's useful now is if you use the glimmer stuff like the ether seeds, the black wax idols, the blue polyphages, and the codes from the Cabal. I don't remember.
Right, resupply codes.
Yeah, and even then, the bonus that they give with a gold tier is so minute and
I know.
small
But
that it's
of
almost
course,
not worth being there.
the problem with that is they did create kind of a very limited economy system to kind of
True.
make that still be worth something. But in some ways, I kind of feel like they took a couple of missteps there. But like for instance, one of the things people don't notice is as you rank up, say like I kill up to the rank 3 for hand cannons. I actually earn a XP bonus to leveling any additional hand cannons that I level once I get like I think it's like 10,000 kills with a weapon. That's actually kind of a useful bonus versus the only other way to increase that stat is to buy a resource item with very limited currency from Zur, who is a
True,
once per
but
week
when you're
vendor.
like us, where we're running out of stuff to buy, where we're starting our week off with, let's say, like 20 coins, that's a little bit more useful. But for the people that actually need those, like the lower levels,
Yeah, that's
you
true.
could buy those. Like they don't. A lot of people I keep hearing recently. I'm like, hey, do you have this piece? Like Zur was selling it a week or two ago, and they're like, no, I was just shy like a couple coins. But then you look at their guns and they don't have them quite as high as they could have.
Hmm.
Could have used, yeah, they were short coins, but they could have used some of those coins to get that thing to help them upgrade that gun. Because if they
Yeah.
max out that gun, they're gonna be able to do more damage and do, let's say, the nightfall and the weekly, which will help them get the gear and get the coins they need to buy the yellow gear from Zur.
Right.
But people don't look at it that way necessarily because it's not as advertised. It's kind of just like, oh, there's a bunch of little boxes on the bottom. They're not as interesting,
Hmm.
which I see a problem with that.
Yeah.
I think I was telling you last night about they should have a whole separate trader as well because you were saying something about people are saying they want Zur there all week.
Someone was just saying that today. They're like, I want Zur there all week and
The
gone on the
problem with
weekend.
that
I'm
would
like,
it would trivialize the exotics, and it wouldn't make them worth nearly as much. It wouldn't be as a rare thing, and you wouldn't have that. Ooh, what is he going to have this weekend? Like you wouldn't have that anticipation, which makes it once you see it either really good or kind of disappointing. Like for me, I think it was last week or the week before, I was really disappointed because I had everything he had.
well, and I know for me, it's like when you're getting to the point that I am, there's only so many yellows you can wear, so it's like, oh, the Vex Mythoclast. Yeah, there's other guns I'd rather use. You know,
Yeah,
people look at me funny, but it's like exotics are exotics. You can only use one at a time, and it's not every exotic does every job. It just doesn't work that way.
Each one has
Yeah.
its own job,
And the
and it
whole
does it very
idea of
well.
having Zur around to buy stuff from all the time, it's kind of confusing the issue because yeah, exotic's great, but you kind of have to have the legendaries to support it because your legendaries, you're gonna have okay, out of a 3 weapon system, only one of them can be exotic. So what do you have? 2 legendaries if at best slot. So you twice as important is legendaries to exotics. I mean, you have to think about, you know, what's going to fit my role, what do I think that I'm looking for, and then, you know, frame around that. Whereas like people just want that yellow loot because hey, it's the thing I don't have. But I can assure you, being at the level I am and the sheer quantity of gear that I am, I sit and look at most of them, and I'm like, okay, it's not the gun I need right now.
Yeah. Like, but then there's a few of the exotic guns like that you use, like the Hawkmoon, where it's a everything and anything gun, where you can use it in so many
Shut up, Hawkmoon's
applications that
Hawkmoon is love, Hawkmoon is life.
I'm not saying it's not. Trust me, I want one. I want to use the crap out of it. Or for me, like you see me, I use either the Red Death, or actually I haven't been using my last word lately. Because I'm enjoying this. I'm loving this this hand cannon that I just got yesterday.
But
Yeah,
see, that's another leveling system within, and so you have these multi-tiered system, and that's like one of the coolest things that I think about Destiny is the leveling system, which most people are like, level 20? That's too low. You can't keep me entertained with that. But it really boils down to, it's like, you have more to do, bro. You can't just call it quits at 20 because if you stopped playing at 20, you're not going to have
a lot of
stuff. You have two subclasses that I can assure you are not leveled up. You're going to have guns that aren't doing what they need to be doing for the end game content. You ain't made it anywhere at level 20.
20 is just kind of like the second beginning.
Right. And it's one of those things. It's like, what is the next step for leveling? And I think Bungie in some ways has nailed an idea down with this, but the question is where do we go from here?
Yeah, they've nailed it a little too well, if you ask me.
Well, yeah, it's like, okay, do we allow them to level up further? And you bring up like, the problem is a lot of people have gotten used to the 5-10 jump, for most MMOs, but 2 levels is a huge difference at the state of the game that we're at.
Yeah.
Like,
that's why I was saying 2, maybe 3 levels max.
If you're going from level 28 to level 30 content, and you're trying to like do level 30 content
at level 28, you're gonna get wrecked.
It's not even you can't do what you need to do, and I think that's really cool. So if if Destiny is only moving by inches, so to speak, up to like 2 levels more, that's going to be a big difference. That's going to change how we deal with the current raid content and stuff.
It's not exactly going to be like those 2 levels are going to be an easy thing. But it also matters on how often are they going to be releasing DLCs.
Right.
Let's say this first one, they took, 3 months is the difference between when the game came out and when it's coming out? Because it's coming out, beginning of December, I think, the second week of December?
I heard it was December 31st is what I heard it was slated as.
Okay, well, they have the release date on. If you haven't bought the season pass, see, the problem is I already have that, so I can't look at the release date on the site now. But I thought it said the 9th.
Here, let me look while you're talking about whatever point you're going to talk
about there. Well, anyways, regardless, it's still 3 months and maybe a week or 2. But if they wait, let's say, if they wait that same amount of time for the next one, it will. If they're gonna keep people interested enough, it's gonna have to be more than 2 levels per se. Just because, think about it, 2 levels. You and me, we're pretty much 30. A lot of people are 30 within a month or 2.
Right.
So, and that's a lot of leveling. That's a lot of playtime as well. But there's some people like, let's say my roommate. He's what? I think 27 or 28 now, and he's halfway to 29 now, and he plays like a casual gamer. He plays maybe 2 hours a day max, and that's like every other day.
Who are you calling casual gamer?
Well, bear with me with this.
I mean, hey, if you're gonna pipe up there and get all butthurt about it, I'm just saying there's a good chance that you're talking about you.
But anyways, as I was saying, but he's able to get there in 2. I think we've been out for about a month and a half, right?
Yeah. Well, September September 9th
Next
is
week
when it
will
drops.
be 2 months or
Yeah,
a month
2
and a
months.
half. But
So,
the fact that he can
November
put in
9th
that
will
little
be-
amount of time and get to that level, if they only add 2 levels, somebody like him could get that even in the first month. Maybe 2. Maybe the month and a half. You know what I'm saying? Because he can only run the raid once, if that, a week. Because he has more of a limited schedule because he works, he goes to school, he works a lot. He has other things that he does, which for a more casual gamer, even then, if they wait another 3 months before the second DLC, that 2 levels isn't going to keep enough people that play at that degree busy.
Mhm.
And then you have like me and Proper here, where we're playing this 8 to 16 hours a day, every day.
I love that range. 8 is you, 16 is me. I'm just.
Well, usually my lowest is 8. Usually I'm playing 8 to 12 hours a day.
I know. I'm just.
Calling you a casual gamer there, Mike.
No, he also does this as a job. If I could get paid for it a lot more, I would. But I have to have a job behind it. I cannot. No matter how much I love sitting at my console, I have to get up and do something at least once a day.
Oh, I do. I just do it, when I'm not online. Just saying.
Obviously.
The thing is, the way I have my schedule set right now is actually the only way I could probably do this as long as I have without having run into major health issues already is like the first thing I do when I get up is I'm spending time with the wife as long as my schedule is on normal. And we're trying to we do stuff together for at least my first like couple of hours of being awake. So
Yeah, but you've fixed your schedule to be the way to be able to do this.
yeah.
Which, I mean, I have almost the same schedule as you, per se, because I'm up all night.
Yeah.
I work at night.
We're up all night to get lucky.
Yeah, I
At
love
rating.
yeah, I wish I was lucky at ratings.
You got your Fatebringer. Shut up. You got plenty lucky.
That's one gun. You got the Fatebringer and the Phaser Rifle. You got the Praetus foil.
Praetorian foil.
Whatever. It's the foil gun. That shoots fire.
It's just foil.
Guys, Like, this podcast is about to hit 2 hours. What?
Really?
And Cola's got to go to sleep.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Like,
So we're gonna finish this up. Cola is wisely and sagely decided to call it quits.
Aw.
Okay, so we're gonna end with our last 2 things, which is, as always, the takeaway and the shout out. So we'll start with the newbie here. He's fresh
Oh.
off the boat.
Not off the boat. I don't rock the boat, baby.
Yeah. Let's. Okay. Anyways, what is your takeaway from this? 2 sentences. That's it.
Oh, well, now I gotta think about it.
So just shut up and get it out there. Come on, hurry up.
About Destiny or just in general?
In general, from our kind of meandering river of topic.
Every game has something they do well. No game's perfectly perfect, but if they were to ever make a perfect game, they would have to listen to the people that play the game more than a few hours a day. Because yes, sometimes those people do have good ideas, but it's the people that put a lot of time and effort into the games that really see how the game ticks, how the game works, and how to improve it, because they play so many games.
So what you're saying is Bungie just needs to be listening to me. Like, I need a direct line to Bungie.
Not just you. They could listen to me too.
Well, you can listen to me too, I guess.
But they say they listen to the fans, and then you look at some of the things they do, and you're like, the majority of the fans aren't asking for that. You're listening to one section. You're not listening to the whole of the fan base.
Well,
like
I just like to
The
see
Beck
the
Smith
fact
class.
that they can.
listen to all the PvP people, and then they nerf the whole gun into oblivion.
I just like the fact that they were willing to admit that they were wrong and kind of go back on.
And then they said they're going to fix it, and they have yet to fix it. But
well, it's getting there. But anyways, that's a good takeaway. Do you have any shout-outs this week?
no, not really. Besides, hi to me.
Hi to you.
Oh,
Kula, takeaway for the week.
More loads,
More loot.
more space, more story, more stuff. Bigger, better, faster.
Stronger.
All the content now. Okay. Fair
Yes,
enough.
all the contents, all the times. Yeah, that's my
I think
takeaway.
I think that's your least serious takeaway I've ever heard. But at the same time, it is serious. I get it. Okay, so
It's true. Like it sounds like I'm kidding, but I'm not. And my shoutouts, of course, Bladesy is amazing, as we all know.
yes, Blazy is.
Other ones. And you can follow me on the Twitter, Cola_Queen, for the Twitters. You can Twitter at me, and I might respond because I like
Isn't it tweet?
Tweet at you, bro. I'm a tweet at you, bro.
Twitter, and I know tweet speak.
Wait, isn't it twit? I twit.
No, you tweet to each other.
I know. Sorry.
Don't me, you twit.
Screw you. Okay. So my takeaway. My takeaway from this today is. No, I shouldn't do that. Cole needs a better mic. That's.
We need to send Cola a better mic.
I know, right?
Phone because you complained about my laptop, so I'm kind of running out
No,
of
we're talking about like an actual like wired mic.
Do you have a mic that you can plug into your phone? Because that's what you need right now. The thing.
I can put into my laptop, but then I have to hold it, and it's annoying.
Okay, so
We're gonna get you a headset.
yeah, we do. We need to get you one.
I accept all donations.
All donations. Here we go. Here's the thing. My takeaway from this is, yes, I'm gonna agree with you, Mike. They need to listen to the people, but there needs to be some kind of vetting system almost, because right now the things that are needing to be addressed with in most games today aren't being addressed with, and if you've ever watched a show on YouTube called Extra Credits, which that's my shout out, Extra Credits on YouTube, there are a lot of designers that are just taking their best guesses and really not actually figuring out what needs to be done with the game.
Yep.
The idea of difference of, okay, well they want bigger, better, and more of it. Hold on a second. Oh, geez.
Yeah.
At the same time, they're not understanding how, what kind of more, better, bigger. For instance, like loot engagement.
Yeah.
Diablo didn't have it right when they first came out with Diablo 3.
But then they listened to people's problems with it, and then they re-corrected it. Maybe not necessarily the way people were asking for it, but they did it to a point where, for the people that were asking for it in a different way, they got what they wanted, but not exactly the way they wanted.
Right. And I think we need to figure out the core engagement of a game. Like Destiny has a major loot as a mechanic, a core mechanic, and right now it's out of whack. And I think right now we need to kind of take a step back as being part of the game industry, because being right here is being part of the game industry, and we need to basically get the information to the people that need it, that are making games, about what's really on the slate, what's on the table. So my shout out goes to my mods. You guys keep me entertained as all get out. My regulars and my donators. Every person that had donated to my channel has given me so much drive to continue doing what I can and do it better. And then lastly, just my co-hosts. This has been totally fun with having, all three of us here. little longer than normal. Maybe we'll try and shave it down a little bit, but I do like the format of having 3 voices versus just 2. No offense, Cola. I know you can carry your side of the conversation, but 3 voices makes it a lot better in my opinion.
More opinions, more discussion, whatever.
Yeah, with more opinions, you also get more sides to a story because you get different outlooks from different areas.
Exactly, because we all have different perspectives. So,
yeah.
Okay, guys. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being part of the broadcast. It'll be available on my YouTube, which is youtube.com/SirProperGent. Same as the Twitter is SirProperGent. And I am posting my information on my Twitch, which is available in the info panels. So if you are catching this later on YouTube, you can always go to my twitch.tv/SirProper and catch my info all there. YouTube, Facebook, and all the rest. I know Mike is regularly on my channel. Do you have any specific info that you want to give out, or are you just along for the ride?
I can be reached at mine on my Twitch if I get a message, on PSN always because I have it connected to my phone as well. So, like, if anybody ever wants, like,
letter I, C, and Mike, and 5 on PSN, correct?
Yes, it is. Yeah, I have no problem running people through things. I mean, I have no problem helping out. I love to help people out, help people get somewhere with something. Like, a lot of people I know, they're stuck on stuff, and I have no problem helping them get over those little humps. Because I know back when I was younger, or I wasn't as much of a frequent gamer, I was that kind of person where I was having that problem, and I always needed help, and there wasn't always somebody there willing to help, because back then you used to have a lot of people that played games that were kind of elitist, and you still do, but
me.
I would consider if I took a step back from myself and looked at myself without helping people, I would be considered an elitist because I like to find the way to do it perfect. I want to, if it's not done a certain way, if it's done a slower way or a longer way, yeah, it may work, but it's not the most efficient way, and that bothers me.
And see, this is why we get along, Mike, and this is why you're part of the team. Yeah. So, with that, guys, we bid you adieu. My information is always available on twitch.tv/SirProper. That's kind of where the fountainhead of SirProper, hashtag SirProper, and all of that starts.
The magic happens.
Where the magic happens! But I'd like to leave with, on that note, that thanks for being here. What?
For anybody, like, because as Bladesy was asking in the chat, about, like, he was asking about how the lore was with, like, the Dragon Age and stuff. There is a really good YouTube channel. It's called Shoddy Cast. They do a lot of the BioWare lore. They also do Bethesda, and they cover literally every little corner of the lore.
Can you spell that out?
Everything, and it is really nice.
Can you spell that out? Here,
I'll put it in the chat for you.
Okay. But yeah, no, that's why we are the Adventurous Society. That's why we do what we do. I have had to take a policy recently of sticking to regular audience as people that I add, just because of kind of the sheer confusion caused by people that just add me on their first time to the channel and then forget that I am who I am. And they're like, "Hey, who are you?" And I'm like, "I'm the streamer that you added." And they're like, "You stream?" And I'm like, "Yes, I'm SirProper." And they're like, "Oh wow, I have no idea who you are." And it's got really old after like the 8th time that got repeated. But I do like to help if you guys are needing tips, advice, and getting to know the mechanics of the games that we're playing. That's what I'm there for. This week,
if he's not on, you can always hit me up.
Yeah. And the thing is we've been really busy this week with trying to get a more consistent raid team for doing hard raids. So I haven't been available yet to play Diablo 3 like I've been wanting to. But hopefully Quinn, Dave, and I are going to get together and have a Diablo 3 night. Also, I am supposed to be having a friend come over this week, hopefully Friday, and we're gonna rock out some Diablo 3. We'll figure that out, but that's the plan. I'm hoping we're gonna have a drinking game, a live drinking game on Diablo
That
3.
sounds like fun.
Yeah, it's gonna be a hardcore playthrough, no vitality stacking. Every time you die, take a shot.
Ooh, that sounds nasty, really.
It sounds awesome! Come on, really? Really doesn't sound like fun?
I mean, I have the way I like to play my Diablo 3, I play that glass cannon. So for me, no, I'm afraid I'll get drunk by the time I finish the first act.
I know. Well, that's kind of the fun part, you know.
I don't think I would be able to finish the act because I'd be too drunk.
That's the beauty of it. So yeah, that's the plan. Both he and I have fortified livers. We both drink like fish when we do drink heavily, and so it's gonna be an interesting. Let's see.
This is what, Friday night?
Yeah, Friday night is what we're hoping to. I don't want to really talk it up too much because it's like
If it doesn't happen, it's gonna be
I
like
know I'm gonna be disappointed. But he was saying, he had time. He couldn't make it this Wednesday, but we're still trying to hold out
See,
for the
Wednesday would
Friday.
be a better day, just because then I could watch the hilarity and
Yeah, no,
possibly join in from my side, just because that'd be fun.
it is fun. It's good time. So yeah, I mean I'm a very good player, so I foresee that I will have the advantage because he's a little rusty. Um,
Still, once you start drinking, that skill can go right out the window.
but you know what the side benefit of this is? Is since I do have the Reaper of Souls edition, I get the Blizzard ring every time you make a hardcore character, so that's free crafting mats every time we die. Yes!
That is pretty good.
It's a win-win for me.
Yeah.
Anyways, oh, Cola is asleep now, so we will officially end. Thanks for
Alright.
watching. Special shout out to Blazy, youngest mod, and total bro of the channel. Good night, take care, good afternoon, and good morning.
Stay